There's a rainbow hanging over me in heaven. When you are close to me, heaven. So take me up into the light I see and shine. Mm, shine on me. Okay. Hello, guys. I hope you guys are doing extremely well. I'm very happy to do another stream today, and we are going to work. Today, we're going to mainly work. There is one thing that I would like to do. I'd like to write a paragraph in regards to the importance of information. I'll try to look at the internet and see what are the resources that I can get and try to build the paragraph slowly. Let's take a look at that. Great. I think the best thing that I can do right now. Let me try to arrange this. I think you guys are having now a better view of my screen. Great. Now let's go. Mm. There is Sun Tzu book, Art of War. Let me see if I can get some information in that. The importance of information. Is there any book that was written in regards to that? Let's take a look at that. The importance of information. I'm seeing some articles in regards to that. Are there books that were written in regards to that? Let's take a look at this. It seems to be a pretty nice article. It seems to be. That's how it seems to me. Okay. The importance of information. Abstract. Good information is essential for effective operation and decision making at all levels in business. In businesses, identifies and illustrates the different kinds of information by the complex internal and external communication links of a typical R&D department, discusses the factors with which condition managers use information, namely managers' roles and tasks, decision-making processes, rational and attentive behavior, cognitive style and perception, such as symbolic use of information and information as power, supported by selected readings and tables of information, types, processes, and uses. I like this abstract is. I don't think, personally, I don't really think this abstract was really coherent. Maybe that's how abstracts are written. Here are the references that he used. Halberton, Introvert Strategies, Infomap, a complete guide to discovering corporate information resources, making management decisions, Organization Wiley. The Politics of Information. Information types. Now, for the guys that aren't really accustomed to what I'm trying to write in here, I'm trying to write something in regards to necessary information. What I do think necessary information is. If I'm just writing about the importance of information, it will be too general. It will be too general because the world is flooded with information. We have information almost everywhere. But now the question that I'm asking is, okay, what is the use of a filtered information, or what is the use of a necessary information? That's basically the question that I'm asking myself. What is the the use, or maybe the importance? And this is the question that is guiding me here. What is the use, the importance of necessary information? Now, there are different things that are coming into my mind, right? I saw that it saves you time, right? It saves you time in a sense where if you have the right information at the right period of time, it helps you to not spend that much energy as you would have if you haven't had that information. You know, it saves you time, it saves you energy. I think if I have to put it in that sense, then I think that saving you energy comes before saving you time, because time now will become like a consequence of that. It makes you much more efficient. Mm. The efficiency, I was thinking about Miyamoto Musashi, especially in the fact that he was um, he was a great fighter and a pretty, you know, Miyamoto Musashi was seemed to be very skilled at attacking warriors or attacking his opponents in their weak points. So what I mean by that is that he will apparently study his opponents and then from their weaknesses derive a strategy that he will be using. So the fact that he was able to take to you he was able to collect all the weaknesses of his opponents makes him a guy who was pretty good at information taking. Let's take a look at this guy. Honestly, I don't really think that this article, let me take a look. What does it talk about quickly? Again, here he is talking about intelligence. Every time that you're talking about information, you're talking about intelligence. I think this is a very good one, right? It is believed, okay, good information, it is believed, improves decision making, enhances efficiency, and provides a competitive edge to the organization. Now, personally, yeah, those are things maybe that are related to organizations, related to systems. But me, it's mostly about how can the individual use those things in his daily life. You know, how can the individual use those things in his daily life? And I think that for the individual to be able to understand that, it's best looking at other systems and from them derive all the essence of the lessons that the person normally should have had already if he was really accustomed to the experience of life. But because he is not really aware of that, now we have to go to those systems and take those lessons. So this is basically what I think. I basically think that to make people sometimes conscious about the certain things that they do during the day-to-day life, it is good to look at other systems that do explain it pretty well. So, for example, if you wanted to make a person who is already grown up, maybe an educated individual, understand the value of information you can take. The fact that in the the intelligence uh, centers or intelligence systems, intelligence industry. I don't know if it's an industry, but let's just call it like that. They do tend to value a lot information, a lot. And if you are able to speak to them from that perspective and also show how those domains also correlate with the things that they do in their own life, then I think that you will be able to. I think the goal will have been attained. This is personally what I think. I think what he said in here is pretty interesting. Is interesting. I mean, this is a general thing. Good information, it is believed, improves decision making, enhances efficiency, and provides a competitive edge to the organization which knows more than the opposition. Such ideas are today part of the conventional management wisdom. The huge sums of money invested annually in information systems alone testify to this fact. Of course, the concepts are not new. From time immemorial, institutions like Roman armies, Venetian traders, and the medieval church used intelligence and knowledge to their advantage. But in modern times, information has acquired a new status and importance as an organizational resource. Okay, I think this one is pretty good to be taken. There is no, it's not possible for me to outline this here. But this one is very interesting because here he is noticing the shift between the information that people used to between the value of information before and its value right now, and he recognizes the fact that it becomes something that is organizational, an organizational resource. The rise of information can be said to have begun in the 19th century with the development of complex government, large scale enterprises, and elaborate social and communication structures. It has been given further impetus in recent years by the development of powerful telecommunication and computer systems and by global trading coupled with increased competition and the freeing of markets, as in the European Union. Let me look a little bit if my mic is working. I really need to make sure that my mic is working. Last time I did the whole stream, I was at a bar, I was playing drums, but unfortunately, my mic wasn't working. So I was there playing for almost 1 hour, and nobody could even listen to what I was playing with the other guys, and it wasn't really fortunate. Okay, most organizations now face opportunities, threats, and change on an unprecedented scale, and reliable, fast, and accurate information is essential for coping with these conditions. Naturally, there are some reservations to be stated. First, there are still some businesses which operate in fairly stable situations with continuing and assured markets for their products. That's true. Such businesses may see little need to monitor changes in their environments, and their information activities may be confined to the control of their internal operations. Now, this is true, but if the individual, for example, is a business that is still starting, you know, if it's not a business that is operating in fairly stable situations, if it's like the person is starting a business that is still at its foundations, I think then it is very important for the individual to have the proper information, because then it can save him a lot of time. A lot of time. Such businesses may see little need to monitor changes in their environments, and their information activities may be confined to the control of their internal operations. Second, it is the case that despite the current climate, many firms in exposed situations still do not pay sufficient attention to the gathering and use of information. Yes, a survey commissioned in 1990 by KPMG Pete Marwick management consultants showed that many British companies failed to consider external and non-financial information when formulating and monitoring their business strategies, and that 59% of respondents did not use information about competitors when setting performance Now, this is a big number. Look a little bit at that. A survey commissioned in 1990 by KPMG showed that many British companies failed to consider external and non financial information when formulating and monitoring their business strategies, and that 59% of respondents did not use information about competitors when setting performance targets. Now, this is a very big, big number. 59%, so it means that 60% of those companies were not really taking into consideration the use of information. Now, let's talk a little bit about the competition. There is competition that do reign sometimes between men, between businesses, between companies, even in play, even in games, right? Games like maybe playing basketball. And I think that the best thing that I can even do is just to take something like basketball. You know, you know, if I have to go play a 1v1 with one opponent, right? There are certain things that I can do in order to maximize my ability to be able to score upon that opponent. And there are those things that I can do. What are they? One of the things will be, okay, I have to practice certain moves and I have to become fluent at those moves. This is one way. The other way would be that I'll study my opponent, look at his weaknesses, right? And try to attack those weaknesses. So in this case, I can do priorly to the moment where we are going to fight, or priorly to the moment where we are going to play, in terms of competition, study him. Or I can study him in the moment. But studying the person in the moment is much more difficult because it takes a lot of brain power to do that. It takes a lot of brain power, it takes a lot of self-awareness, but the thing is, you can do that priorly to that moment. You can study the individual priorly at that moment. All of that is made in a way that you can improve your chances of getting over the person, over the person. This is just one way of looking at it. This is like playing basketball. And when you look at Miyamoto Musashi was a very, he was a swordsmanship. And he was very interesting in a sense where he would study his opponents. In all of his fights, he never lost, basically. Let's take a look at him. Why did I stop in here? Let's finish that one. Let's stop in here, okay? Now, 59%, that's a very interesting number. Okay, there is no reason to suppose that the situation is much different today, though the advent of the single European market may have jolted some companies into action. One final reservation must be expressed. The contribution of information to organizational performance is far from clear. There are firms which seem to succeed on the basis of hunch, intuition, and chance, while others struggle despite massive investment in information systems. Now, here they are trying to outline the balance that needs to exist between, the hunch, the intuition, chance, and the investment in information systems. Because here, if we have to do a parallel between what they're saying right here and the common person in society, it would be, okay, there is one person who is pretty talented at what he does, and so he keeps evolving, and then there is another person who is only trying to seek, okay, what is this person doing during his day, what is he doing to be able to be like that. And if you look at that from that perspective, you will see that it's not really possible for the person who is always trying to look at what the other person is doing to evolve. It doesn't really make sense. But I think that in the context of competition or in the context of battle, that's where information becomes very important. In the context of battle, that's where it becomes very important. The cost of information gathering and analysis is an overhead which reduces profit. Yet, it is difficult to establish the corresponding value of information, even in commercial contexts. Such problems are being addressed by theorists and researchers in information management. Meanwhile, the majority of managers continue to believe that information is a good thing. What information? Now, he's talking about information from an organizational standpoint. And from businesses. Okay, they're talking about what information here. Let's take a look at this. Information is an elusive concept, and there is a continuing debate about its meaning and about its relationship to its correlates such as knowledge, expertise, the learning process, and cognitive psychology. For our practical purposes, we'll use the term in its widest sense to cover all kinds of facts and understanding having a bearing on organizational management. Thus, we are concerned with numerical data, factual knowledge, narrative accounts, opinions, and evaluations. We also need to be clear that information has meaning only when perceived and interpreted by the human recipient. Yeah, that's true. The human being is the only person that makes information actual to exist, because it's consciousness. Information is raw material for the mind, which uses it to develop skills, knowledge, and ultimately perhaps wisdom. I think it should be good to download this. If I can download this. Okay, yeah. Okay. Let me take K information. I would like to modify, not really modify, I would like to highlight some parts of it. Parts that I may look afterwards. There's some parts in here that I can take a look at. Where was I? I was here. Mm, the best thing is to open it with something else. Great. Let's go. Information is raw material, okay? Practically speaking, any organization needs information both about its internal processes in order to ensure effectiveness and efficiency, and about its environment in order to respond and adapt to the actions, attitudes, and decisions of external agencies such as governments, competitors, and social groups. And it's also valid for humans as well. We need information about our own internal processes, about how we function, our psychology. We need to know about our fears. We need to know about those systems that seem to control us. What Carl Jung called gods. You know, both types of information must be put together in a coordinated manner so that the actions and decisions of the organization can be matched closely to its external circumstances. In the remainder of this article, information processing is considered primarily in the context of business organizations, and the examples are taken from this sector. However, it is to be understood that the principles and problems addressed here are largely common to all types of organization, with only minor differences of detail and emphasis. The following are examples of the kinds of information which might be sought by businesses. What are the rates of outputs of our various assembly lines? How has the unit cost of manufacturing product? You see that all of those informations that the person will be seeking from are coming from questions. Great, those are the questions. As is clear from these random examples, information required by a business can take many forms. It can be quantitative data or qualitative data, such as opinions. It may be commercial, scientific, technical, legal, political, or social. It may be internal to the organization or relate to the external environment. An organization is in fact a complex information processing system in which every action, decision, opinion, and attitude of individuals and groups is derived from or influenced by the information which they have acquired and processed. Very interesting line. As is clear from these random examples, information required by a business can take many forms. Now, this is all the different forms, but here's what he says. An information is in fact a complex information processing system. Now, it's not different from a human. If you look at it from that perspective, it's not really different from a human. A human is also a complex information processing system. You take the informations from your environment, and based on those informations, you act, right? Through free will. It's the same thing. It's just that an organization is a level up of the individual, a level up upon the individual, a level up on the individual. I think this is how I should say it. And an organization is in fact a complex information processing system in which every action, decision, opinion, and attitude of individual and groups is derived from or influenced by the information they have acquired and processed. A very interesting line. Only a moment, though, is necessary to perceive that all organizations, whatever their primary function, must process information in order to exist and cooperate. Very important, because information has to be processed. Otherwise, we are not really using it to its potential. We're not really using it to its whole potential. Thus, a company may be in the canned food business, but apart from the operatives who pull the levers, as it were, making canned food is not what most of the employees do. Rather, they process information. They send and receive instructions, report to superiors, order supplies, issue press releases, place an advertisement, evaluate results, decide between choices, and perform a myriad other information and knowledge-based function. Even the operatives and others performing physical acts are information processors too, receiving instructions, reporting machine breakdowns, and the like. This information processing activity does not take place in a vacuum. It is performed to enable the business to maintain a successful exchange relationship with its environment. Every internal act and decision ultimately must make sense in the context of that relationship. It follows that information about the internal workings of the business must be matched by knowledge of the environment. The organizational information network is of I would say immense. The organizational information network is of immense complexity. One part of the possible network is illustrated in Figure 1. Which shows some of the likely information links of a research and development department. Internally, the R&D department creates new scientific knowledge, provides technical service and advice for production and quality control, samples and analyzes incoming raw materials, and contributes to the new product development. To perform these functions, it communicates routinely with other departments, collects and analyzes data and information supplied by them, writes reports, and so on. It is responsible to the board from which it receives its authority. Oh, this article is well written. I think it's really coherent. You see that the ideas are progressing towards something. If there is an in-house library and information service, R&D will be in frequent communication with it, perhaps in sophisticated ways involving current awareness and literature searching. Externally, R&D has information links with R&D. I think R&D is research and development, I think. I'm not really too much into that, but I think that R&D is that. Externally, R&D has information links with agencies and organizations which provide essential inputs to its activities. R&D workers read scientific and technical journals, reports, and other publications, and may also themselves write for publication. They attend conferences and form contacts. Hmm. They attend conferences and form contacts with other researchers outside the firm. Here I can establish a parallel. They invent products and processes for which they seek patent protection. They may be called on to provide technical advice to customers and to assist in obtaining satisfactory quality from suppliers. All these activities involve complex information exchanges and may be supported by information gathering through external library information service, either directly or through the company library if there is one. Combinations of internal and external information may be used in decision making. Thus, the solution to a customer's technical problem may require the deployment of existing R&D skills and knowledge, a search of an external database to find reports of related work, consultation on technical feasibility with the firm's production department, and discussions with suppliers on modifications to a raw material. Okay. Similar diagrams and analyses could be produced for all other departments and functions of the business. As may be imagined, even for a small firm, the resulting total network is extremely complicated. How much more so for a large multinational? Mm. In passing, we may observe that a firm devotes considerable costly resources to communication and information processing. And information processing. It seems only logical to pay close attention to such an expensive resource and to strive to get the best value for money by means of an appropriate information policy and efficient systems. Good one as well. It is important to pay close attention to expensive resource and to strive to get the best value for money. Now this, as I was saying, this is not only for organizations. Is also useful for people. Is also useful when you're playing basketball, as I was just saying. It's useful to have information. It's like, okay, what is the best? Where can I find the best value? Where can I find the best information? Oh no, where can I find the best information that will supply me with the best value that I need? It's very important. The diagram in figure 1 does not pretend to be comprehensive. In particular, it says nothing about the pattern of information exchange and processing between individuals and groups within the R&D department. In this model, R&D is a black box set in the immediate environment of the firm, and beyond that, in a wider external environment. The model can be generalized for use in conceptualizing the information process at any level. For example, a similar diagram could be constructed to show the information network of a single research worker of the R&D department. In this case, he or she will be the black box set in the immediate environment of the department, with wider environments in the shapes of the firm and the outside world. Figure 2 shows how the method can be used to model the firm as the central entity in an information environment. Because of the complexity of the diagram, connecting lines are not drawn. But it is to be understood that there are information links between the firm and all the agencies and factors shown. Okay. But I think that generally speaking, it's already very good. It is worth pointing out in passing that the firm's competitors, customers, and suppliers also exist in the same, or at least a closely related environment. Much of what the firm knows is probably known to them also. So what he is trying to say in here is that this is very large network, where this small, you know, this small arrangement doesn't even show. The network is so big. It's a real big network. That's what he's saying with all this. The large central rectangle shows the firm in its immediate environment, containing the entities with which it is most likely concerned. The firm must obtain raw materials, parts, and other supplies, capital to finance the business, and labor in order to produce goods to sell against the competition. It may also have to cope with trade unions representing organized labor. Yes? In order to manage this environment, the firm must keep itself fully informed about the agencies within it. It must track developments of the supply and prices in raw materials, find the best ways of recruiting suitable employees, study the habits and needs of the customers, monitor the activities of its competitors, and so on. Now, this is like a small conclusion to all of that, but I think it's very nice. It seems only logical that an organization should try to manage the process efficiently. At the same time, all of this is taking place in the wider context shown by the outer areas of the diagram, which contain some of the likely agencies with which it might have contact, and the corresponding factors and trends which may impact on its business. Clearly, it is vital for the firm to be aware constantly of developments in all these areas, and for a number of key reasons, such as acting lawfully, maintaining a good public image, keeping up with technical developments, and changing its products to match emerging markets and social trends. Those are the reasons why the person needs to have all of those informations: acting lawfully, maintaining a good public image, keeping up with technical developments, and changing the products. Now, the question I'm asking is, how can this relate with my daily life? How does that relate? And I think that those are also the same things, right? You know, knowing a lot of things, knowing things about how the government works, how the systems work, is also very important. It's very important. But I don't think that this is something that will go into the work. In the case of some firms, there is a further complication in the shape of the international dimension, which multiplies the problem and therefore the information processing many times over. Yes, in view of this importance, pervasiveness, and cost of information processing, it seems only logical that an organization should try to manage the process efficiently. Some firms have fully worked out policies and consciously designed systems. Many have at least promoted information consciousness among their employees and managers. Now, this is a very good thing to have, reduce their paperwork or improve their communication systems. Now, those are the actions that some of those businesses may take, right? They work out policies and consciously design system to be able to manage well, better the informations. Some have appointed managers to oversee the operation of information processing, and there is now an emerging profession of information management with its own disciplines, professional practice, and qualifications. A number of firms and other organizations have carried out detailed studies of the information resources in order to identify gaps and other deficiencies and to improve information flow. Specialists techniques such as info mapping are employed in studies of this kind. I don't know what info mapping is. Advanced computer systems are usually part of the solution to a firm's problem. Okay, interesting, because it means that the AI can also do that as well. But now, if the individual he isn't a person who knows already how to process information, he won't. AI won't be useful. Though it is worth pointing out that decision though it is worth pointing out that decision support systems, network of PCs and the like are in themselves unlikely to improve matters. The creation of a genuine information culture is also dependent on changing the behaviors of employees, on improving the quality of the information that is in the system, and fostering a new attitude to the organization as a learning system. It is self-evident how managers use information. Now, this is a very interesting part. This is the part that I was actually trying to reach. It is self-evident that the nature of managerial jobs must determine the kinds of information the managers use. It's like, what goal does the manager has in mind will determine the type of information that he will take and the type of information that he will use. Now, this is not only for managers, you know, it is also for us, for people. It's also for us, the student, you know. If he has a goal in mind, he wants maybe to understand a particular chapter. Where can he get the knowledge to understand that chapter? He goes to the library. Okay, which type of books am I going to take? You know, this sentence just says that everything stems from the goal that the person has. The person needs to have a goal. We shall therefore begin this section with some consideration of the nature of managerial work. I like this sentence, it's very interesting. But it's not like the type that I may say that I may, you know, maybe there is also a better way for me to say it. The traditional view sees the manager's job in terms of functions such as planning, organizing, decision making, staffing control, and budgeting. These are indeed important outcomes of managerial activity, but they tell us little about what managers actually do and how they think about and reflect on their works. There have been several studies of managers' work. Some of them are very influential. Perhaps the best known is that of Mintzberg, who concluded that all managers' jobs are similar and can be in terms of 10 roles in 3 groups as follows: interpersonal, figurehead, leader, liaison; informational, monitor, disseminator, spokesperson; decisional, entrepreneur, disturbance handler, negotiator, resource allocator. Those are the roles of the individual. The manager. Interesting. All 3 groups, not just the informational, depend on the use of information for their success. Other studies have stressed the importance of management functions, such as communication, human resource management, and agenda setting, determining goals, priorities, and network building. There is a problem with studies like this. In their concern to establish general characteristics of managers, they overlook or at least de emphasize 2 key points. There is considerable variation between managers according to their seniority. Mhm. Clearly, there's a world of difference between the roles and activities of a chief executive officer and those of a plant foreman, even though both may be described as managers using the term in its widest sense. Yes. There are real differences between managers performing different functions. Thus, the production manager and the research manager may well perform the same 10 roles defined by Mintzberg, but may have quite different approaches to them. Take the case of leadership, for example. A production manager, faced with the need for close control of output and careful work scheduling, may tend towards authoritarianism and direction, whereas the research manager, coping with open-ended tasks and indeterminate timescales, may see himself as the first among equals, stimulating debate and encouraging creativity. Such differences may be underlined by the tendency of different personality types to gravitate towards different kinds of posts. This point will be considered further below. Of all the functions and activities ascribed to management, that of decision making has received the most attention and study. This is partly because in some influential quarters, decision making is seen as synonymous with management, or at any rate, as the activity that which defines it most fully. Yes. It's like you're taking, why are you taking information for? You're taking information just because you want to make a decision, And a goal, what is a goal? A goal is just the ending progression of a lot of different decisions that you have been making, right? Like for example, if I'm playing basketball against one opponent and he's just in front of me and I'm saying, okay, here's the ball. Let me go on the left. I'm going on the left, he is coming also on the left. Now I have to make a decision, and the decision is that okay, I'm going to move towards sorry, I was talking about the left and the right. I'm going to the right, he comes to the right. Now the decision that I have to make is okay, he is taking me here on the right. It's better for me to go to the left. I'm making a decision. Now, as I'm going towards the right, he is coming behind me, and I'm going to take the ball and I'm going to try to put the ball directly into the rim, right? But now he starts to jump. And as he is jumping, I have to take a decision. Either I put the ball in, or either I do a fake, and then he passes by as he is jumping, and then I have all the time that I need to make the shot. All of those are decisions, and the goal here is to do what? To take the ball directly into the rim. That's the goal. But through that, there are various decisions that I have to make, and those decisions are very important. All of those decisions are very important. Management decision about making choices between what? Where did I stop? Moreover, decision making perhaps makes more demand for information than most other managerial activities. Yes, you need to invest a lot into this. We will therefore take a close look at this topic. Management decisions are about making choices between alternatives. There is a voluminous literature about decision making, and there are many ways of characterizing management decisions. One which offers a useful structure for our purposes is that of Cook and Slack, who categorize decisions along three dimensions: strategic, operational, unstructured, structured, and dependent, independent. Strategic decisions are those which are concerned with the relationship of the organization to the environment and affect or involve all or a large part of the organization. They are often unique, having no precedence, and are usually taken in the higher reaches of the organization. Hmm. I think I try to see a little bit. I'm seeing a little bit what they mean by that. Strategic one. It is concerned with the relationship of the organization to its environment and affect or involve all or a large part of the organization. Operational decisions largely are confined to one part of the organization and are internal matters concerned with the transformation of inputs into outputs. They are often routine. They are often routine, and so procedures for making them may have been established. That is to say, they are programmable. They are usually taken in the lower ranks of the hierarchy. Very interesting. No, I won't. I don't. Here is one of the most interesting part to me. An unstructured decision is ill-defined, fuzzy, and difficult to tackle. There are no known rules or procedures for making it. It may not be clear who should make the decision, or even whether there is a decision to make. The outcomes are unpredictable. A structured decision is a clear, well defined, distinct, and unambiguous. There are established and agreed procedures for making it. It is quite clear who the decision maker should be, and the possible outcomes are predictable. But what I look at is very interesting is those two. Those two are very interesting to me. A dependent decision is one which cannot be taken independently of decisions made in other, perhaps all parts of the organization. It may also be dependent on decisions taken in the past which have preempted some of the options, and it may in turn predetermine future decisions. A dependent decision. An independent decision can be taken without taking into account decisions made elsewhere in the organization. It has no time-based consequences or preconditions of the kind mentioned above. Now this is very interesting because all of those ways, this systematization of decision making is also something that you can use in your own life in order to be able to understand. Oh, I really like the way they did put this article. I think this one, it seems to be, is this font is this font what is this font? This font is really nice. I think this font is nice. It reminds me of a font, but what was that font again? I don't know. This is not Times New Roman. Is it Times New Roman? Anyway, this is serif. It's serif, but it's really nice. I think it's nice. It's not bad for readability. It's not bad. A decision on whether to enter a new market. This decision is strategic. because its outcome may change the organization's relationship with its environment. It affects the position of the whole organization and will be taken at the highest level. It is unstructured because it is not clear how it should be made. Even if the firm has entered new markets before, the different circumstances may mean that these earlier experiences offer no safe guidelines for the new decisions. The outcome is quite uncertain. Finally, the decision is dependent because it may call for decisions to be made by all parts of the organization concerning a variety of matters such as new production methods, new product designs, changes in marketing and sales methods, new organization structure, newly trained labor, and changes in finance. It also commits the organization to future actions and decisions, perhaps for several years. That's why they're saying that this is something that is pretty strategic. It's like you're taking this decision, but this decision is going to impact you for a lot of years. That's how it's just is. That's how it just is. You know, for example, for somebody who wants to make money, the person says, okay, I'm going to go into I don't know, an industry where it's not really possible to make a lot of money, instead of choosing an industry where you can make a lot more. I think this is a strategic decision. A decision on how to schedule this week production. This decision is operational. Now that's why I was saying that this part was the most interesting part. Because here what it means is that you have the big decisions that you have to make sometimes, and you also have the small decisions. And the small decisions are also very important, just as important as the big decisions that you have to make. A decision on how to schedule this week production. Such a decision is operational because it concerns only the department making it, provided the department delivers the required output at the right time. Its method of delivery does not concern other departments, which are only interested in the result. The decision is routine in that it is taken every week using established procedures. The decision is structured because all the relevant parameters are known and understood. For example, priority of orders, availability of machine time and labor, the need to clean and reset machinery, blah blah blah. The decision is always made by the same person or team, and the type of outcome is entirely predictable. Finally, the decision is largely independent and can be made without reference to decisions elsewhere, except perhaps insofar as there are company policies and priorities for favored customers. The information requirements of these two decisions can easily be imagined, and it is inappropriate to discuss the details here. However, one general point is worth making. The internal information needed to be the second decision. Okay, the internal information needed for the second decision is unambiguous, easily accessible, and entirely within the control of the organization. Moreover, it is understood and interpreted in the same way by all concerned. On the other hand, the first decision requires a great deal of information about the external market and the competition. Now, this is a very, very, very interesting part. Such information is difficult to find and to interpret, and may consist of as much of opinion as of fact. I think I did say this sentence too quickly because I was already feeling very excited. Such information is difficult to find and to interpret, and may consist as much of opinion as of fact. This is a very interesting article. I think in this article you do find some information even that you don't sometimes find in books. There may be strong disagreement about the significance of some of it. Moreover, the information will have to be considered in relation to fact and opinions about the internal trends and developments within the company in respect to its present business. Often it is not clear which information should be sought and considered. Such notions explain why, as the blah 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 showed, Companies tend to create information systems which deal with internal data which can easily be processed. Information about the environment is fuzzy and uncomfortable and can easily be ignored, perhaps until a crisis compels attention. Now, here he is giving the reason why you see there are 59% of the organization, or there are 59% of the companies who actually don't seek for outside or external information. This is the reason why here that he's bringing here. Such notions explain why, as the KPMG Pete Morwick surveys showed, companies tend to create information systems which deal with internal data which can easily be processed. Information about the environment is fuzzy and uncomfortable and can easily be ignored, perhaps until a crisis compels attention. This is very important. It's something that I may have to think over again. Okay, now here they're saying that the ways that information is used by a manager is also influenced by the manager's personality, the culture of the organization, and by a variety of covert aims concerned with domination, persuasion, and the like. Now he is here outlining the fact that the information depends on other factors as well. In here, second, the user of information has to make a judgment about its meaning for him or her in the context in which the information will be used. Information is a matter of subjective interpretation by the individual who acquires and uses it. What does that mean? It means that two people may have a different interpretation of an information. For example, two people are watching a movie. One person analyzes the movie much more deeply, and from it he is able to take lessons that he's going to apply in his own life, while the other person was just entertained by the movie. Why? All of that depends on the interpretation that the person has taken from the film. All of that. How do you interpret the information? first issue of the question is rationality. Modern organizations and Western